Joining me now is award-winning journalist Frank Sesno. He is the former director of George Washington University School of Media and Public Affairs and currently heads the university's strategic initiatives. Frank, this is so carefully choreographed this day. It's often scripted in such a way it shows the peaceful transfer of power. I'm in the middle of A Promised Land, the book by Barack Obama, and in his book he talks about that drive over to the Capitol with outgoing President George W. Bush, their conversation. There have been some frosty drives over. Of course, Jimmy Carter lost to Ronald Reagan, but they made the drive. George H.W. Bush made the drive with Bill Clinton, who beat him. So talk to us about Trump's actions today. Are they damaging?
They're damaging. They're also reminders. They're damaging because the norms and the very important ceremony around the peaceful transfer of power, around the people's will being expressed through that peaceful transfer of power, have been denied today. But it also underscores that for all that denial and for all the violence that we saw a couple of weeks ago, it's happening anyway. And Biden has been very careful to sort of play down his own rhetoric, to not kind of one-up Donald Trump, who is a president who was in constant attack mode, to demonstrate how dramatically different the tone is going to be. So I think that what's going to happen today, driven by the symbolism of the COVID pandemic and the violence that we've seen and the division that we're experiencing, will nonetheless resonate in a very powerful way. And I don't think we should underestimate for a moment the very different tone and tenor that Joe Biden is going to strike. 4 years ago, when Trump spoke, he spoke in very dark ways in his inaugural address about carnage in America. Today, we're going to hear Biden talk about unity in America, and it's elusive, and it's distant, and it's going to be really hard for him to reach for. But I also think it's going to have a dramatic effect and going to have a very resonant theme and receptive audience.
So let's talk about tone and tenor, and let's start the day before his inauguration, because we saw it yesterday. It was on full display. Right. He talked about his son, Beau Biden. He shed a tear. He said farewell to Delaware, talking about it was in his heart. He served that state for 36 years as a senator. We already saw indications of a man who was willing to actually express empathy, tears, something that Trump was so much against.
You couldn't have a more dramatic departure from what Donald Trump has been, right? Here's Donald Trump, who never served ever in any level in public service or in government before he became president, versus Joe Biden, as you just point out, has had a lifetime in the Senate as vice president, serving the country. Donald Trump, who seldom talked about anybody but himself. And Joe Biden, who is constantly invoking his son, invoking other people across the country. Donald Trump, who didn't want to acknowledge COVID in any way, shape, or form, actually diminished it, attacked those in his own government who warned of its severity. And Joe Biden, who starts this inaugural ceremony and day, as you point out, by acknowledging 400,000 Americans who've already lost their lives to this. So this will be a very dramatic departure, both, as I say, in tenor tone, but also in substance, because one of the first and earliest things that the President Biden is going to do is to throw the federal government in all of its layers and levels at the COVID issue to get this vaccine deployed more rapidly and try to deal with the economic fallout from this.
We've talked a lot about Biden. Let's talk a little bit about the vice president-elect. This will be a very big day for her as well. Talk to us about the significance of her swearing in and what it means.
Huge. Huge. Here's an African-American woman, a South Asian American woman, first woman vice president. This breaks a lot of glass ceilings, and it's very powerful, too, at a time of great demographic shift in the United States. So, you know, we had Barack Obama, first black president, and from there we swung to Donald Trump and a lot of the racism and other things that were themes throughout his presidency, highlighting the divisions. Now we come back today, in addition to Biden, as you point out, Kamala Harris to be sworn in. And I think when we see the first family photo of the cabinet and this enormously diverse cabinet that Biden has put together, Kamala Harris's role, obviously she's the 51st vote in a very divided 50-50 Senate, and the role of these others will really reinforce how much the United States has changed, how diverse it is, and the effort of this administration to highlight that diversity in moving forward.
It'll be fascinating to watch. Frank Sesno, always a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much for your insights.